Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, starting with our new lesson for today. And previously we talked about cell, that there are different levels. That we started with the subatomic level, then we went towards the atomic level. We discussed elements, bioelements, biomolecules, and then we talked about the cellular level. Now we are moving towards the next level of organization, that is called as tissue level. If we are talking about like tissue level, in multicellular organisms, similar cells performing similar functions are organized into groups called as tissues. So if the word tissue is concerned, we are actually talking about a group of cells. And what type of group of cells is working at this level? Which are similar in their functions. So cells which are of same type, meaning having similar functions, are just grouped together for a specific or a combined task, and this combined task is being done by all these cells which are present in a group or called as tissues. So tissues are a group of similar cells specialized for a common function or a common target. It says that each cell in a tissue carries on its own processes, like depending on the function of its organelles, but it also performs tasks related to the functions of the tissues. So first thing we have to mention is that if we are talking about cells which are working together, that doesn't mean that these cells are specifically working for that one specific thing. Rather, to have specific functions which are required for the cell to survive are definitely being done by its own organelles. So when we are talking about cells performing different functions, is just like the employees working in a factory or in an office. So these employees are definitely working for the boss, for the company, but apart from that, when at home, when in their social life, these employees are definitely working or performing different tasks related to their own lives, right? So it is not something that these are doing only one job and that is for the organism or which are targeted. Rather, they are also performing the same functions that an individual cell does for its own survival. So for example, when we talk about tissues, we have plant tissues such as epidermal and ground tissues. And epidermal tissues, as the name indicates, it is the top layer skin of the plants. Epi means top, derma means skin. So top layer of any plant structure is basically composed of epidermal cells, and these cells, as the name indicates, are protective in function. And the ground tissues, for example, in any plant are responsible for the storage of food, which is prepared at one time and can be used at another. For example, if the plants are like working or photosynthesizing for the synthesis of their food in spring times or in summers, but when the autumn arrives or the cooler months of the year arrive, there is possibility that there's shortage of photosynthesis, or even the leaves just get dropped off. So as a result, photosynthesis or is not happening in the months in a year in which sunlight is not available. So in that case, what a plant is going to do for its survival, it is definitely going to have its stored food, and that stored food that the plant stored in good seasons was in their ground tissues, so that the plant survives the whole time. Next thing, if we're talking about the tissues in case of animals, the example is muscular and the nervous tissues. In muscular tissues, different cells are like working in a manner of contractions and relaxations. As a result, your complete tissue or your complete organ is working. So whenever you see any sort of muscular activity, even if you are talking, if you are walking, if you are eating, if you are just grabbing a pencil, that is because of your muscular tissues, and these muscular tissues are able to perform their functions on depending on the specific type of cells which are involved. And then nervous tissues is basically consisting of neurons, the neuron cells, nerve cells, and these are the cells which are getting together in a linear fashion or chain-like structure to form a nervous tissue, and these are basically responsible for catching the signals from the environment, or that is called as stimulus, change in environment, and that's sending those signals to the brain for any action or reaction to be performed. Next level that we are going to have is organ level. For example, when I'm talking about organs, in higher multicellular organisms, more than one type of tissues having related functions are organized together and make a unit called as organ. So when in higher multicellular we talk about like we have more than one type of tissues having related functions. One type of tissues having related functions are organized, that means that there are cells which are just not sharing one common function, rather they are having more than like different types of cells. For example, we talked about in tissues that there are cells or group of cells having similar functions. That was one type of tissue. And if we are having another type of function that is performed by another group of cells or another type of tissue that is having a different function. So that's why when we are talking about tissues in their function, so definitely we are having multiple type of tissues performing different functions. And when there is more than one type of tissues, so definitely they are having more than one type of functions. So when these functions are related and organized together to make a unit, that is called as organ. Now, for example, if we are having like different tissues of an organ perform their specific functions, and these functions collectively become function of that specific organ, so that is called as relatedness of function which is organized, or related functions is also called as coordinated function. So when we are talking about one single function, so that is not just happening independently and the other function is not affecting that part. No, it is not. That is coordinated. So when one thing or one type of tissue is performing its related task, other group of tissue is performing its related task, but both the tasks are linked together. For example, we have a stomach, and when we're talking about a stomach, we have got two different types of tissues in it. So as a whole, for the functioning of a stomach, for a complete functioning of this organ, we are basically depending on the functions being performed by both different types of tissues. First one we call as epithelial or granular tissues. That is the type of tissue which has to secrete digestive juices. So when we are talking about digestive juices, that means these are certain secretions which are being produced by the stomach for the purpose of digestion. And next thing we have is muscular tissues. Muscular tissues, as the name indicates, they have the contractions and the grinding of the food ability, so that the digestive juices which are being secreted by the glandular tissues can work best on the food for its complete digestion. So this is something we call as organ, in which different type of tissues are working together to have a coordinated fashion job to make a function done that is being performed by the organ, for example, stomach. Next thing we are talking about is organ system level. Different organs performing the related functions are organized together in the form of an organ system. For example, again we are taking the example of digestive system. Like previously we discussed about the stomach, where that was one type of organ. But is there any type of organ or any other type of organ as well in your digestive system which is taking part in digestion? Then answer is definitely yes. Why? Because when we are going to digest our food, we are definitely going to have it in our mouth first, right? So when we are having it in our mouth first, the mouth is the first organ which is related or which is involved in your digestive system. Then the food is going to be towards your stomach via esophagus. Esophagus is basically also called as food pipe. So food pipe is another type of organ which is responsible for transporting that crushed food from the mouth towards your stomach. So when we are going down the stomach, we have got intestines and all that. So there is not only one single organ in any system level which is performing alone and is performing the whole thing altogether. Rather, in organ system level, we have different organs performing related functions. So definitely, again, there's a thing which we call as related functions. And this related function means that is something coordinated as well. Here you can see we talk about digestive system. We have first of all mouth, then we have esophagus, then we have stomach, and then we have small and large intestines. All these things you are looking around digestive systems are basically different organs, and if even one single organ is absent, so most probably your digestive system is not working well. Next thing we are going to have is individual level. Individual level, that means that if all the different organ systems are got together, then we have a complete organism, or we call as individual. So different organs or organ systems are organized together to form an individual or an organism. For example, just take yourself for example. That is, you have a body which is consisting of different functions, like for example, or different systems. For example, you have a respiratory system, you have digestive system, you have reproductive system, you have excretory system. So all these systems are working together to make an individual working like for life, right? For example, if we are taking a human and if its respiratory system is not working, so what is the use of its circulatory system and digestive system? Answer is death. If the person is not able to digest its food, so what is going to happen? He'll be either living on artificial systems. So definitely digestive system is equally important. If all the systems are working and excretory system is not working, what is going to happen? All the toxic things will remain in the body and person will sooner or later die. So that means for any individual to live a perfect life, all the systems should be in working condition, and all these things should be coordinated as well. For example, we have got exercise, and in exercise thing, all different things are being involved. Like for example, your breathing system, your circulatory system, your excretory system in terms of sweat, and your even digestive system, or your metabolic reactions. So to perform an activity or an exercise, different things are getting linked together and all your body is being involved. And when each and every function is important, then we call it as individual being working in condition. So right here we are going to stop this lecture, and that was all for the day, for the lesson till individual level. Thank you.